You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome back. It is Monday, therefore, it is time for another installment of The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, a forum for business owners, professionals, and students to come learn, get motivated, share their experiences, and discuss how to grow our business and the business community as a whole. I am Ryan Carpenter, a local entrepreneur and your humbled host and moderator for these discussions. I am excited this week, as I am every single week doing this show, but this week we have another business owner coming in, and I'm really enjoying the fact that we've been able to bring you actual business owners these past couple weeks, small business owners too, just to kind of show that side of things. This show is a business show. It's not just an entrepreneur show. It's not just about business ownership. It's about business in general. Obviously, entrepreneurship is probably one of the sexier subjects of business. But that being said, I don't just want business owners to come in. I want to be able to talk with other industry professionals, people who have worked their way up the corporate ladder, people who decided that maybe it's better to go into education and help to shape the future of business through the minds of the people who are going to be entering the job market year after year. And so I want all of those people to come in. If you have anything to do with business, then I want to talk with you. I want to hear your story. I want to see what it is that you have done that has been successful. I want to hear what it is that you have done that has not been successful. This is a place for us all to come together and use our experiences to better the community, to better the experience of the people who are coming in after you so that we do not have to reinvent the wheel every single time a new business gets opened. If you've been in business for a while and you know this, and this was able to get me to where I'm at, let us know that, because we all want to get there too. You know, it's tough being out there on our own. It's tough when you're a business owner and have to kind of, put it all on your shoulders and figure it out as you go. So why not be able to come together, share our experiences, and discuss how to grow our business and the business community as a whole? So see, every single show I open with that line or with that statement to kind of set up the show for a few reasons. One, I just want people to get their mind right and to understand what it is that this show is trying to accomplish. Yes, I want us to be able to have a conversation. But at the end of the day, the whole point of this is so that we can all grow, so that we can better the business community that we're involved in, and so that we can better our own business. Doing that will have all kinds of positive impacts that are way too long of a list for me to be able to share with you right now. If you use some common sense, you should be able to sit back and be able to see how that can benefit your business, but also the business community. Today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Dave St. George. He owns a company called Advanced Multimedia, located in the Frandor shopping mall over in the Frandor section of Lansing. He's been in business for many years. I'll get his story once he comes in and he can explain everything that he's done and everything that allowed him to get to where he is. But the main reason why I brought him in today is because he can touch on a specific topic that I think is probably one of the most important things in business. Anyone can get into business. Anyone can wake up early in the morning. Everyone can do that. But what does it take to actually have the passion to be able to do that? Well, a lot of times it has to do with you being involved in something that you are actually passionate about. Not everyone can be passionate about insurance. Not everyone can be passionate about selling advertising or selling knickknacks. But if that is your passion, then you will probably be exponentially better at it than whoever you're working with. And that's just because you'll have the energy and the drive to be able to do what is necessary in order to be successful. So for us, obviously, everyone's asked this question is, how do I do what I love for the rest of my life? How can I enjoy my life? How can I pair the thing that I spend a majority of my life doing, which is work, with something that I like so that I can enjoy the brevity of my life and not just certain aspects of it? I wish I could really give you the answer and make it so that you'll just be able to do that. But a lot of that has to do with you. And I can't tell you what you enjoy. And I probably can't even necessarily tell you exactly how to go about doing it. But what I can do is hopefully get you to think outside of the box a little bit and find ways in which you can make your career path and your life somewhat unified. It'll also help to make sure that your entire life, all 360 degrees of it, are moving in a direction that's positive for you and your family. So I'm going to have Dave on. So Advanced Multimedia, what they do is they're actually a film industry rental house. So they have your lighting, your cameras, everything that you possibly need in order to shoot a film, commercial, or put on a live event like speakers and microphones. Now, typically when people get into the film industry or get into, like, let's say the music industry, a lot of times their goals are to either be a movie star or a high-paid director, producer, maybe be a rap mogul. But there's a lot of different things in every single industry. There's so many different aspects to every single industry that if you sit back and actually pay attention to what industry you're in, you'll probably find a lot of different opportunities that you could fill some gaps that are currently there in the marketplace, which would allow you to be involved in that industry, but just maybe not in the same facet that you had perceived when you were trying to get into it. The ability for a person to adapt is just as important as the ability of a company to adapt. Every year is going to be different. Every industry is going to be different. Every quarter is going to be different. So you have to pay attention and you have to be willing to adapt. And so hopefully Dave will be able to come in today and get us all excited about enjoying our life and finding ways in which we can take things that are our passion and turn them into a viable career path for ourselves. It'll also allow us to put in the amount of energy that's needed to be successful. It'll allow us to make sure that when we have a meeting or when we have an obligation at work, it's not an obligation, but it's something that we actually enjoy and we look forward to going out and doing that task. I mean, how great would life be if that's the way that we all lived? It's not all, rainbows and sunshines. Obviously, when you go into business for yourself, there's a lot of negative sides that you have to deal with as well. You got to deal with, probably telling your friends that they're not doing what they need to, and they either need to do what they need to do or they're not going to be able to work with you anymore. That's a tough discussion to have. And that's something that typically only business owners will have to deal with. They say don't get into business with friends and family, but when you're starting off a business, typically friends and family are the only ones you can turn to. So again, all we're going to be doing here is just having that conversation. And this is a pre-recorded show, so the conversation that we'll be able to have with you is going to be somewhat lacking again this week. However, if anything that we talk about today piques your interest or provides you with further questions that you now have, please feel free to email us or shoot us a message on either Facebook or Twitter. On Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/businessplanradio. And you can find us on Twitter. Just follow us at BizPlanRadio. That's at BIZ Plan Radio. And you can also email us at businessplanradio@gmail.com. That's businessplanradio@gmail.com. We would love to have that discussion with you and answer any questions that we have the ability to, so please feel free to engage with us. We're going to go to a quick break right now, and when we come back, we're going to have Dave St. George on with us to tell us about his story and what it's like to live the dream, that is, working in a career path that you happen to enjoy. You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 WLNZ Lansing.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio. And follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
All right, welcome back. This is the second segment of the Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter. As I mentioned before, our guest today is a gentleman by the name of Dave St. George. He is a owner and operator of a company called Advanced Multimedia, located over in the Frandor Shopping Center in Frandor section of Lansing. Dave, thank you so much for being in with us today.
Thanks, Ryan, for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. Every week, I tell our guests what I want to do is I want to kind of set the stage and let our listeners know why I brought you in and who are you to be able to talk about this topic. And just to let you know, our topic for today is going to be taking a passion of yours and turning it into a business. And any of you out there who are involved in film or involved in commercial work or anything like that, if you have had an opportunity to go over to Dave's location at Advanced and had an opportunity to talk with him, you understand how difficult it's going to be for me today to keep it within the hour, but I'm going to do my best. So, Dave, why don't you kind of fill people in as to who you are and what got you to where you're at now?
Okay, thanks again. I was educated and I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, originally born and came from Cincinnati, Ohio. My father was an engineer. My mom stayed home. And in high school, there was someone who had to sell their Super 8 camera. And I didn't know anything about film, and I don't think this is so dramatic to mention, but it was so exciting to me that he had a film camera. Probably because, we've all seen movies on TV and in the theater, that was like an exciting thing. And my father said, "No, you're not." And it was the only time that I really defied him. I was a freshman in high school, and that's how it started. So I took the camera and I just shoot everything. It was a cartridge of film back then, and for $2 you'd get that process. It was 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or 3 minutes and 20 seconds if you shot at 18 frames opposed to 24, and that was it. It was very exciting, and as soon as someone laughs, either because they like it or because it's funny, you're hooked.
Right. So obviously, film was something that from an early age you enjoyed and started to build a passion on. What did you do after that? Did you pursue that in college?
Exactly. Before I went to a film school, I had to go to Purdue University because my father, because he was an engineer, all of us, me and my siblings, we all had to go to engineering school.
Right.
But afterwards it was Columbia College, and very exciting. It was, I believe, the 8th and 9th floor for anyone who's still going. 600 South Michigan Avenue, not too far from the Buckingham Fountain, and it was Chicago.
Right.
You get a person from the suburbs, and you bring them into the city, and they're not used to being in the city. Very exciting. I would come in from the burbs on the commuter train to the city. It was very exciting when younger, traveling to school, watching actual Hollywood films being shot along the way as I walked to Columbia's main school building. It was also a very ideal time because we were still right in the middle, and I believe Chicago still is. They had incentives, or come over here to shoot. Back then, they had actors saying, "I don't mean to be this pro-Chicago filmmaker, but they make it so easy for you. They don't give you red tape," and it was like that.
Right.
We got to. I got to see The Untouchables being filmed. Not to date myself, but it was very exciting. As a youngster, you'd be walking, you see in the alley all the period costumes, a gigantic truck with all the costumes on it, semi-size. It was just exciting.
Right.
And yeah.
You might have dated yourself when you mentioned the 8mm camera.
It was right on the edge
Yeah,
of
sure.
8mm.
Sure. Okay. So so you studied film when you were at Columbia?
Yes, sir.
And did you guys get a chance to work on any cool projects when you were there? Like, were you guys involved in any of the productions that came through Chicago? Like, were they tying into the school at all?
Back to your dating me. You'd see Home Alone was being shot back then Home Alone 2.
Right.
Things like that. I was more gravitating towards the smaller productions where I learned a lot, opposed to everyone wanting to be a PA on Home Alone.
Right.
And you're not touching the camera. You're not threading the camera. So I learned how to actually load film, unload it, camera reports. It was a lot of detailed stuff. It's like almost like accounting.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a lot like business too. Like, obviously it's great to get your internship at a big Fortune 500 company, but typically you're not going to get as much out of that from a learning experience as you would if you were to get in with a small business that you could actually, like you were saying, have your hands a little bit more involved in. So I definitely can see how that would make more sense for you from a learning standpoint. What were you doing when you were on those films? Were you just kind of doing grip work, or were you?
I was an assistant camera only because I met someone going into a movie theater. He had a film, something from a film company on the back of his jacket. It was Die Hard at the time. His name was Michael Goy. And Michael Goy today is one of the most popular, one of the best DPs today, director of photography.
Right.
And he was like, I'm working on this film. If you want to, contact this number if you just want to work on it. And I became the second AC that, you slate, take one, take two, that kind of stuff.
Right.
You load the camera, you unload the camera, you labeled the magazine. See, it's almost like, well, that's the way it was done today,
Right.
back then, but it's still kind of similar. Today we have the Red camera, the Alexa, and an amazing technology. Still, some people still shoot film, Star Wars, Spectre, etc. So that's still being done. But that's what I did in the beginning. Later, I got into lighting, and I thought that was more exciting.
Okay. So obviously everyone, typically when you get into film, you have these grandiose ideas of becoming a director, producer. Is that the career path that you were essentially trying to go down?
I think everyone aspires for that, regardless if they say it verbally or not, or they're keeping it to themselves. Right. What happened and what happens, you find yourself, you're on a shoot and someone forgot this and they forgot that. And you're like, well, I want this production to be successful. I'm going to come and make sure I have all the gear. I think it was well stated where I am today. What I'm doing is this one instructor mentioned, go find one of these guys who he bought too much equipment and he accidentally became an equipment rental company. He didn't mean to.
Right.
But it's very enjoyable and it's great. You get to talk to everybody. That's how it happened. You get one light kit, and someone says, "Do you have that light kit? Do you mind if I rent it out?" And then it goes to, "I need two of them," and then yeah.
Yeah, and that happens even just like individually. Like I know that I've borrowed equipment from friends, and friends have borrowed equipment from us and stuff like that. But obviously, being able to come to a production house or a rental house that has just about everything that you need is a little bit more convenient because you have access to whatever you need. But then also the ability. One of the things that really separates you from a lot of the people that I've worked with is your ability to really help people to understand that piece of technology that they're renting from you. So
that's what I was exactly indicating. Yeah,
right.
That's you become the mentor when you get to a certain maturity level.
Right. Well, cool. So it wasn't necessarily something that you had said, okay, I want to become a rental house. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, I don't want to say life happens. I mean, I don't want to sound like it's negative because it's a wonderful thing, you know. My heroes today are the top gaffers, the top DPs, the director of photography again. That's what's exciting to me. When I see an amazing movie and I see the gaffer, I always look at the gaffer because that's the role I try to play.
Right.
He's like the head of the electrician, that type of thing. And there's also a key grip, and that's regardless of going into the detail of the hierarchy.
Right.
You know that was done so well. He will be the DP in a number of years. Mauro Fiore also went to Columbia, and he got the Academy Award for Avatar. So each person, you go from here to the next. Yeah, he was a gaffer before.
And so obviously now that you have a rental house, it wasn't just a matter of having the equipment. I mean, at some point you had to kind of have that mental switch of saying, okay, this is an opportunity. How did that happen? What was that moment for you?
Well, when you first start, I kind of like this story because let's go back to business, okay?
Yep.
I was working at a different company. I won't get into the company. And, you thank the world or life for all the opportunities they have.
Right.
And I was working for a company that I was going to work for 2 weeks. You ever been in that situation like, I just need some money for 2 weeks. I'm not going to stay there?
Right.
Yeah. So I was there 2 years. And it was a company that I just really didn't like, but it was very fantastic. It was fantastic because you learn different processes and procedures and whatever. I won't get into all the detail, but it's fantastic. And but I used to bang heads with the person in charge because the manager above her said, no, I want to promote this individual, Dave, and she kept fighting me over and over again. So every day off she would have, she would come back and everything was wrong. I don't care if it was right, it was wrong. And so we have this lie to ourselves that we say, you know what? I'm going to work hard, so hard, and when I leave, you guys are going to be sorry. No, they're not. Nobody's sorry. Just you go leave and you go somewhere else.
Right.
And so I was having lunch in that area, in that mall, with my parents and some parents' friends, and I saw a little thing that said space available. And I went and spoke to the people down there, and they were very nice and very cordial. And I said, yeah, it's great. And that's how it started. I just started. This is one of my favorite stories, is to simply say, hang a shingle out. You ever hear that term?
Yep.
You know what the shingle is? To my understanding, you took a shingle off the roof. You couldn't afford anything. You painted on it. You said blacksmith, and then you started.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of just doing it and just getting started. That's a lot of time the hardest part is getting the process started, getting the ball rolling. So once you got the ball rolling, and you're like, okay, now I'm a rental house. Now I have equipment. What was your next step? Was it, do I start getting a lot of equipment so that I have everything? Or was it, all right, I need to build a very solid customer base?
I think that's too scary to go, let's go hypothetical and see what people need. I've heard this story many times, and it always goes like this. Well, I didn't have that piece of equipment. I said, when did you need it? I need it at the end of the week. Okay, no problem. It's this much. And you would just go get it.
Right.
And that's how you started. I've heard that story many, many times.
Yeah, and that story's actually happened between you and I. I mean, one time you actually got a new microphone when we needed it for a project.
Oh, the Sennheiser G3.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it's adapting. I mean, that's really what business is adapting and changing and staying relevant. So obviously, with all of the technology and stuff, how hard is it to stay relevant in an industry where the technology is constantly changing?
Be on the cutting edge, be the first person on the block to get it. Sometimes you're simply looking at something going, that's probably a good idea. But mostly it's the customers who tell me, can you please get this? Can you please carry this?
Right.
And you don't want to let them down. And it goes to serving. And I'll probably say this later in the conversation. It's about serving. It's about serving your customers. It's about serving your employees, your vendors. The income comes later. It's about
Right.
just giving.
Just giving. Interesting. So being in the rental industry, you're still kind of in an industry that you're passionate about. You're still in the film industry, maybe in a different light than what you had originally thought getting into it, but being able to still stay in a passion, how has that been able to impact your life positively from just an emotional standpoint of not having to get up and go to a job you dislike?
Well, Mark Twain says you choose a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm working the grip rental company, and then when there's an opportunity for someone says, "Can you please help me over here?" Especially if they've, it's an amazing project. They have been wonderful, giving a lot of business, that type of thing, and they ask me, I really don't want to say no.
Right.
It's just exciting, and exciting also. I just teach someone a little bit, and some of these filmmakers here just go with it. They have the passion and the knowledge just to move it to the next level. I barely have to say anything. Sometimes they come back to me, how do I do this or that?
Right.
But they're just amazing me. They're just amazing to me of how they're excelling, and they just keep moving to the next level.
So have you still been able to stay pretty involved on the actual film side? Like, have you still, you said that you obviously take projects when they're good enough, but how frequently have you been able to actually hang out in that space as well?
Oh, well, it's really easy when someone says, we want you to play the bad guy in this movie here, and can you please do that? And so I was like, okay, sure. It's an exciting thing. I think it's funner to play the bad guy. And while I'm there, they have a built-in grip and gaffer there. So after we're all done, I'm helping taking the sandbags down, or if they need to, this is how you set up the stand, that kind of stuff. And so many times I'm in that realm. And then other people said, "Hey, I understand you do that," and I kept being called for that type of a thing.
Right.
Do I still help? Yeah, definitely, I still help. But I get calls from other places who know me that we're going to do this, one of these high-end shoots for the state or whatever, and I go myself. Plus, I bring someone else who's capable, but they don't know everything yet, so I have to guide.
Right.
So that's when I work on these bigger projects.
Very cool. So, what are some productions that some of my listeners may have seen or heard of that your equipment's been used on?
Well, we provided gear for your Mitsubishi project at your company at Real Digital. There's also Izzo. I've been in Izzo's garage to do a project. A company from Chicago.
Sounds like a show in of itself.
Mm-hmm. No, it was fantastic. He was polite, and it's Coach. We get you to do this, Coach? This, Coach? It was they had a prompter, and we provided the lighting, and there was a cameraman from somewhere else, and we all kind of melded together in his large garage, and it was just fantastic. It was just exciting, and then Tropo came and catered afterwards.
Very nice.
But I left before that.
Oh, bummer.
There's one that was just recently shot in Detroit. It was, I think most people know from actors, So
Right.
Michael McCallum, if you've heard of him.
Yep.
And he was performing in that. And Michael is just a very wonderful, polite person. Like when he leaves, he texts me and says, "Thank you so much for all your help."
And he's a local guy, right? Is he a local producer?
A local producer and actor is my understanding.
Right.
John Warfel is also an amazing person who's worked on a bunch of productions. He's worked with Michael also, but he also works with other production as well.
Right.
John is a DIT. He works with the high-end cameras, as he calls himself, the data wrangler. Just an amazing, polite person. A lot of people know John. And then there's...
What about the productions? Do you know like any of the commercials or films or anything like that it's been used in?
Recently, it was the state of Michigan. It was about something like bring business to, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was around this type of a topic, bring business to Michigan, or I'm trying to find the right words. But the state of Michigan, how about that? We'll just go like that.
Okay.
And so then there's an excuse to get more gear for everyone else.
Right. And obviously every one of our Real Digital productions, we've used at least some piece of equipment from you guys as well. Actually, the first time that I ever met you, or met Dave for the listeners, since you're not in this room with us, the first time I actually met Dave was I was working for a media production company down in the Detroit area, and we had a shoot up here in Lansing, and we were trying to find a glide cam or a steady cam, and I was not really aware that there was even equipment rental opportunities here in the city of Lansing. And so we were able to reach out to Dave, and he was able to get us that piece of equipment, and I haven't gone anywhere since. He really takes care of people, and I think maybe that's what our next question is going to be. How does your how do you keep customers? Like, what are some of the things that you try to make sure that you do in your customer interactions?
Work hard. When someone needs the gear, unless you're so busy that you can't prep it, you prep everything on a cart. And this is from me watching other people in other places when I was younger. You prep everything and it's ready to go for them. Right. And put the work in and loading and no, I got it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Stuff like that. A lot of, if you want me to mention some other productions that I should mention, and most people should recognize, is Eightfold Marketing, Harvest Creative, things like that. These are and Optic has come in, but Optic has they built up a certain amount of camera gear themselves and things like that, so they need less from me, but just wonderful, polite people. those kind of production companies. But Discovery Channel comes through here, either from California or New York. They need a light kit. The Today Show was shot. I guess there's some piece that was shot at State or something, so somebody needed some gear, stuff like that. So people shoot everywhere in the nation,
Right.
and Lansing is one of those places in the nation. So people need gear. People shoot productions everywhere.
So do you get a lot of like companies that are doing some type of production here that are not necessarily even from here,
Oh, heck
but
yeah.
And just need one piece, that maybe they forgot or what?
Sometimes it's one piece. Mostly it's a whole package that they need. They need the big lights, the smaller
Right.
lights, the C-stands,
It's easier than taking all that equipment cross country.
well, you also have to pay for each piece of equipment. And a C-stand, which is just a stand for people who don't know, very heavy.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a steel stand, and it's steel because it's rugged. You're not going to take that onto the plane, although we've shipped it. We shipped stands to California, and they paid a lot of money, but they wanted to do it that way.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. We still have a little bit time in this segment, so why don't we touch a little bit on the Michigan Film Credit, right? I had the Michigan Chamber of Commerce in here, and they were obviously not for the film credit. I'm assuming that you, being in the film industry, probably were positively affected by that film credit being enacted. How has that negatively affected you since that has gone away? Have you noticed any decrease in business?
I don't want to say that it would be negative because there are commercials. It doesn't matter. There are commercials that need high-end gear, and they're not going to buy it. They want to rent it. So I would not say and also Michigan is the auto hub, right, of the United States,
Right.
it's you're always shooting car commercials somewhere on a stage, or let's ship a hostess mount, which is simply it goes onto the side of a car like the Flintstone cartoon,
Right.
and you can shoot the driver, or you can invert it, and you can have the wheel shot going through the puddles or through the snow. You have so much. The people who need to go high-end productions, maybe they'll buy their Epic, which is just a high-end camera for people who don't know. It's used for shooting feature films as well. But there are so many productions that need gear, and now they know I'm here. When I first started, for all you new business people, no, I was like playing the equivalent to solitaire, going, I hope somebody comes in here.
Right.
But I started small,
All right. Well, I'd actually like to go into that just a little bit more. But before we do that, I'm going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have Dave touching a little bit more on what it was like to get the business started. So you are listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 WLNZ Lansing.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
All right, welcome back. This is the third and final segment of The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, a forum for business owners, professionals, and students to come learn, get motivated, share their experiences, and discuss how to grow our business and the business community as a whole. Before we get back in with Dave, I want to touch on some quick housekeeping items. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/businessplanradio. And you can follow us on Twitter at BizPlanRadio. That's at BIZ Plan Radio. And if for any reason you want to get in contact with the show, either with some suggestions or if you yourself would like to be a guest, you can email us at businessplanradio@gmail.com. That's businessplanradio@gmail.com. So we still have Dave St. George with us, who is the owner and operator of Advanced Multimedia, a local film equipment rental house here in the Lansing area. Dave, thanks again for being with us and sticking around with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So we touched a little bit on your backstory and what it is that you do. Now let's get a little bit more into the business side and what it's like to be an entrepreneur and to run your own business. So what were some of the major struggles that you had when you first started, when you first got your business launched?
Nobody knew I was here. But I'll tell you, I had some amazing people of where I started. They were like, what can we do to help you become successful? And I thought, what a wonderful thing. Let's put that out there into the universe, and how can I help you back? It was fantastic, just incredible. I mean, it was touching that someone was like, I barely know you. What can I do for you? I think there's just good people everywhere. So that's how it started. But when you're waiting for people to come through that door, you're just sitting there at the computer, so you're surfing the web too long unnecessarily to occupy yourself. But you're also using time for marketing. What gear should I get? That type of thing. You're doing the best you can. You have to get out there. Some of the people out there, in Lansing, in pretty much probably any city, I think everyone will relate to this. Who has any type of success is that they attend networking groups. They get their name out there. I understand there's something called 10-minute networking or 5-minute networking or something like that, where you have a very short time to announce what you do, and that person tells you the same thing, and it gets out there. You have to shake people's hands. Beginning business owners, be nice to everyone. If someone says, look, this is for the MS Walkathon, go give them some free equipment.
Right.
It's not just a nice thing to do, a good thing to do, be a good person. Your name went out there, and don't expect to get any money back. If it's out there, maybe that person doesn't remember you for that, but you do it without with a giving heart, if I can say that. If someone wants to come back and say, you know what, I need this for my wedding, we rent speakers as well, then they'll come back that way for you. Just give to the community.
And you had mentioned in the last segment that obviously taking care of your customers. So essentially, you're just really focused on making their lives easier. And in so doing, that makes you basically a piece of the puzzle that can't go uncalled when the new projects come up, huh?
Yes. There's a saying, and I heard it from some other speaker, and I totally agree with it, because I've heard it myself. The person says, you want to hear them saying this out the door, I'll be back. Right. Thank you. I'll be back. That's all you want to hear. You did your job. It's providing what they need and going overboard. Helping them more. I'll read someone's face when they're saying, this is how much it's going to cost. This is the estimate, and I'll see their face. I'm like, okay, here, we'll do this.
Right.
And then it's like, I'll get that person. You can either sell to that person one time and make all this cash, or money, whatever income, or you can give them a great deal, and they'll come back over and over and over again, and then they'll tell their friends, and now you have 2 more people come. Yeah. So
that's actually a part of the reason why I started my business. When I was working down in the Detroit area, we kind of had that weird business conundrum where people are so focused on bringing in new business that sometimes the old business was not getting taken care of like it should have. And so I had a huge issue with that, and I came up with a slogan, I guess, that kind of touches to that point that you were just making, which is it's cheaper to retain than it is to attain. So not just in terms of the resources necessary to go out and get new business, but also if you start to learn a client and you start to know a customer, you're going to know what they want. You're going to know maybe changes, like for my industry, when we're making a video for a client, if that's our first video, we don't know what their tastes are, right? So, once we get that first render sent out, there's probably going to be some, a good amount of changes. That second and third time when we work with that customer, we kind of already know what they're going to like. So that actually saves us time and money there moving forward. So that's kind of like what you were saying, correct?
Oh, exactly. Once you are doing a fantastic job for your client, there's no one else can do it proper except for you. And that's why I hear people go, why are they getting people from LA to work here? Because they already worked with them before.
Right.
Maybe they were out in LA already. Once you do a great job, no one else can do it right.
Right. Very cool. So you said that you had some people that were that wanted to help you out and get started. So aside from the networking that you did, what were some of the things that you guys did to really get your business set up in terms of getting those new customers and those first customers coming in your door?
It was film and it was rental, but it was also the more consumer rental where it was a speaker system or a microphone, things like that. It was as simple as someone needing some speakers for their wedding. That became huge, and it wasn't about a lot of money being made. It was about the frequency of the people coming in.
Right.
They would pay $50 a speaker and $5 for a mic, and they were done. Or if they needed two speakers to connect between the two, they were done. If they wanted to have a wireless, it was a little bit more. But I would have people coming in I said, how'd you hear about me? And they said, oh, John told you about me. But John didn't even have his wedding yet. But because he had this proper, you figure out your prices also, Ryan, right, of what you should be charging at. And it goes right back. Do you want that sale one time, right, or do you want it? I think everyone learns that, including you, right? When you're pricing out a bid, you kind of figure out what you're going to do. I think 3-tier pricing for everyone who's listening is very important. It can cost you this much money or this much money or this much money, and you will be surprised sometimes that they go to the highest end, but right, you get more and more service.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a sales tactic. I don't know the actual term of the sales tactic itself, but essentially you give someone something and then you take it away from them, and then they're like, well, wait a second, I kind of like that. I want that higher end version. And so that's kind of the whole, that's why people end up going with that one, because you're taking something away from them. People don't like things getting taken away. I
like that. That's an interesting concept. I thought you were for a second leading towards the puppy dog sale, if you're familiar with that.
Oh, no.
Puppy dog sale is back in the 1950s to sell TVs. They said, oh, you can just use the TV for a week. You don't have to buy it. But all their neighbors came over and all their friends came over. Right. All their relatives came over. You're going to give it back? No, you're going to figure out a way. A puppy dog, I'm going to give you a puppy for a week. You're going to give it back?
That's pretty much the same thing then. You're giving them something and then taking it away from them. So obviously being able to have equipment to allow you to really start to get more and more, not sales necessarily, but start to build more and more relationships, then that network itself, word of mouth obviously is the number one form of marketing.
Yes.
It's the toughest to get. Because you can't associate a dollar amount with it. Like I'm going to pay for such and such amount of, organic marketing. It doesn't work that way. But that's kind of a tough thing to do. Were you doing any of your traditional style marketing or anything like that too, to get people aware of the fact that you were even around?
I found that all the marketing I did it didn't seem like it was working. It was people finding me because they knew me or someone else, suggested me. I mean, I'm stating the same thing twice, but Yellow Pages is how I started. Everyone says go get your Yellow Page ad, and I still have it, just to have it. And obviously, internet. Everyone searches on their smartphone, not even on their laptop.
Right.
They're mobile. Make sure the phone number is right there. Everyone, okay, please, right in the front. Don't let them search for it. I'm sure you've heard that kind of a comment before. But the other different ways I've tried, you try and you fail. And by the way, all the new business people out there, when someone tells you, God bless them all, the salesmen, when they say, well, you got to give it some time. No, you don't. I was trained this way, and I've experienced it. It either works right out of the gate or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work out of the gate, something's wrong. There's something wrong with the advertising. That's what I've learned. It either works 100% or it doesn't. So I tried a special book that has Yellow Pages. It was like kind of Yellow Page book, but it was like a different, like a very very specialized book. Again, everyone, your volume, if whatever you're advertising, it has to have a crazy amount of people who are seeing it every day, every week, whatever it is. It has to be measured in thousands. And I don't mean 10,000, I mean 100,000 better be passing through to see that, okay? That's the rule for Yellow Pages. That's the rule for, people ask you, hey, what do you, I go, how many pieces of brochures are you going to be printing for me? And, the newspaper, 10,000. Oh, okay, well, thanks. Well, I'll let you know. 10,000 is not enough, not for Lansing.
Right.
Especially not for Chicago. You have to have over 100,000 to start, and you go from there.
Yeah, and you're kind of a specialized industry too, to a degree. Everyone needs water, for instance, right? So a mass marketing may make a little bit more sense for a water company. Have you found any issues in terms of the speciality of your actual offering in terms of being able to market that effectively?
It's a certain language that people who, when they need it, understand. If you don't understand the language, you're not getting that piece of gear. As I said, I have, how do I state it? The people who are non-filmmakers who need gear, the Kmarts, the Walmarts who need to come in and they need a speaker and a microphone and a podium, okay, a lectern, just so they can, this is the new store or some bigwigs coming in, that type of thing. Mostly it's wireless mics that, give me a lapel. No, I don't want to hold a mic. Give me a lapel. And you also learn that way, too, about what people need and what people expect, so you see this pattern. But what's a Mayfair clamp? What's a Cardellini clamp? What's a wall spreader?
Aflac.
Very specialized.
Right. Yeah. So let me. Typically, we always talk about good things, right? Not necessarily negative things, but let's talk about some things that you've done or some things that you'll never do again as a business owner. Just because I want the people listening to know those too, so that maybe we don't make the same mistakes. Why reinvent the wheel, right? So
I'll go right back to the first one I mentioned. You learn quickly marketing. No 10,000, no 20,000, not even 20. You got to go high end. How much are you spending for that marketing? 325, 350, especially when you're in the beginning, when you're just starting.
Right.
Also, it's the ad. It's the type of ad that you're doing. Sometimes, if you want to rent a projector, obviously that's one of the things I wouldn't mention it if it wasn't. It does not work for me in Valpak. I did 2 areas, not 1 call. If I get 1 call, that's worth it.
Right.
I used to do Valpak for a different product, and it was, kind of related, but it was different. And I would get 2 or 3, or even just 2. I'd probably just get 2. And you know what areas where you got to advertise in, and what works, what doesn't. So for a certain product, it was Okemos. Don't try to sell me anywhere else. I already know where my customer base is, and Mr. Salesman, and don't let them try to sell you on anything. There's a saying that salespeople are the easiest people to sell. Have you heard of that one? Yeah. I don't know. I guess we relate to the salesperson. We like to talk to them. It's like, sure, we like you. Let's go try it. No, that's one thing I learned. Okay, it either works or it doesn't. And you also learn what works and what doesn't. In the beginning, I think this is really, you asked that question. I think this is really important to as a helpful thing to mention, is that when you are new, that's when you're vulnerable because you don't know what works yet, and you're spending your money on advertising. You think it's going to work, and it's just not working. This is so it's stated over and over again, but it's the truth. You got to go on the net. You got to do your social networking. I even did the social networking later, right. But you got to be out there so people can smartphone you, if I can use that as a verb, and find you.
Yeah.
I mean, Google. You just talk to your phone and say advanced multimedia hours, and it will talk back to you.
Right.
Or Siri for Apple.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunately, I think, starting a business today versus even when you started it, which wasn't 50 years ago or anything. But even in that time frame, starting a business today, in terms of barriers to entry, and in terms of being able to have a platform in which you can get your voice out there, I think obviously we're in a pretty good position with some of the technologies that are at our disposal.
But also just to keep on continuing here, pitfalls and what you do and what you don't. When you first start your company, don't let people are trying to be helpful. You can't let them tell you what to do. You can be polite. You can listen. You know what works and what doesn't.
Right.
That's how it is. You figure it out. You're there every day, trying to make this work. You know what it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like we're starting to get a little bit close to the end here. So one thing that I want to start asking all of our guests, we haven't done this yet, so you actually get to be you get to be the first person to put this out there. But I don't know if you're a big reader or not, but I want to have each of our guests at least give one book or one piece of literature that has helped them as a business owner that you think that my listeners would benefit from.
Okay, the book I'd suggest, and I remember finding it by myself in the bookstore, it's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and there's a new edition, a more updated, a better, more politically correct edition out there now. But that's the first one. Just read it. Just go through it. And the people I spoke to, where I'd be in a break room working at some the little stupid job, as we call it when we're younger. Good book, they would say. That's all they do. They point it and say good book and walk away. You know, just read the book. It's, what is it, $5-6 on a paperback? There's no reason. You can get it online. You know, maybe you want to get the book and you'll highlight it a lot. Go ahead.
And so what was that again?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
I think it was written in 1935 or 1936. I would say it was the first success book or one of the first ones, something like that.
Interesting.
It's probably not the first, but one of the first ones that respected.
Well, thank you for that. So unfortunately, we're gonna end today's program. We always run out of time, and so maybe we'll have Dave on with us again here some point here down the line, and we'll obviously keep you posted on all of that information as we move forward. Thank you so much for sticking around for another one of our episodes. This has been The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 WLNZ Lansing.
This has been The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter Podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.